Well, welcome to the UK VMUG. It's great to be able to chat to you today. Nice to see so many of you. Hope you're going to enjoy the day and see all the great presentations that are coming your way. My name is Julian Wood. I'm sure you can read. I'm a blogger at wooditwork.com, a VMware vExpert, and yeah, I've been lucky and honored to be part of the VMUGs for a number of years, so great to be here. Just as a show of hands, did anybody go to VMworld US or Europe? Got somebody over there? Excellent. So then you don't know all the things I'm going to get wrong in this presentation, so we're sorted. So, VMworld US was in August in San Francisco, and VMworld Europe was in Barcelona in October. It's obviously VMware's big showcase of the year, where they get to announce products, tell you their strategy, their roadmap. Some of the things that Joe was alluding to earlier are things and conversations that VMware has been trying to allude to in their VMworlds over many years. Some of the things you heard this morning from Joe are things that are probably years out in terms of what you're trying to implement in your own companies and at work. So a lot of the VMworld stuff is all about things that are obviously happening in the future. I'll give you a warning with this presentation. There is far too much content for 45 minutes. If you think, yeah, VMworld, they announce a few products and they talk about a few things, when you actually start doing the research, it's actually insane the number of things that they talk about. So there's no way I'm going to be able to talk through all the slides, and you'll get bored and you'll go to sleep and you'll just blow your mind anyway. So each of the slides talks about something. Some things I'm going to flick over, some things I'm going to stay on, which are of interest. But I've stuck a URL at the bottom of each of the slides, which will give you a little bit more information. So if you care about OpenStack, if you care about Docker, if you care about Evo Rails, all these kind of things, off you go, and you can go and do your research. On my blog, this presentation will pop up shortly. Also on the UK VMUG page, all the presentations will be there. So you don't have to panic, you don't have to write down all the long URLs, you don't have to take photos of the screen if you don't want to. Presentation will be on the VMUG site and on my blog as well. So if there are things that pique your interest, please go and have a look at that, and it'll be far easier than trying to pay attention all along, which will be difficult with the amount of content. Also, I'll mention that's on another slide. So these are just the highlights of things that were actually mentioned at VMworld. There's obviously the vCloud Suite, vCloud Air, vRealize, Evo Rail, end-user computing, networking stuff, some certification, and all the other bits and pieces. So this is some of the stuff we're going to be covering. You've got a problem today, though. This is an awesome VMUG, but there's just actually too much going on. So if you can see, I'm quite lucky that I get to be first up on the day to talk about all the VMworld announcements, because I'm going to be alluding to some of the things that you can get more detail on later in the day. But the problem is, in the next session, I think, do I have a, yeah. In the next session, you can see this is from 10:50 to 11:50. There's Mike Laverick talking about Evo Rail, one of the things I'm going to be talking about, Matt Steiner about vRealize operations, and Duncan Epping on what's coming in vSphere and future releases. The problem is, they're all at the same time. So unless you have some clever time travel devices, you need to pick one of them. So you can use my presentation to have an idea of at least one of those three things you want to see. Obviously, there are other sessions as well on networking, Nutanix, and Power CLI, which I also cover as well. So the point of this is there's too much content. Have a look at what I'm going to talk about, and then you can at least delve deeper into some of the things into further sessions. So the vCloud Suite, this is what it currently has. It's VMware's big, all-singing, all-dancing suite of all their applications. To be honest, it's quite a pricey thing, but what you get with it is a lot. So it's all the VCAC, the management, vCloud Director, the connectors, and it's all on Enterprise Plus. There are 3 different versions, Standard, Advanced, and Enterprise. And basically, this is the basis of what VMware likes to sell you as a suite comprising many of their different products. But what's new is of interest today. There's new stuff with SRM, vCloud Automation Center, so that's all the orchestration and automation piece. Some extra things they've put in for big data with Hadoop. You've got to stick in something with big data, otherwise what are you doing in this day and age? NSX, for people who don't know NSX, that is, if you think of ESX as compute virtualization, NSX is network virtualization, and that's the whole massive, huge, big thing that VMware's getting into about virtualizing the bits of your network, and the vCloud Suite has got some new interesting bits and pieces to hook in with that. And there's a new thing, there's a support assistant which helps you upload log bundles and do all of that. So that's just part of the new things with vCloud Suite. As you can see at the bottom with the other slides, there'll be a little URL. So if you want to go and get more details for each of the slides, off you go. So Site Recovery Manager. Obviously, this is VMware's DR solution. Has had a bit of a spit and polish put on it. First exciting thing, it's now got full web client integration. That was an issue before. You needed to use the old client for SRM. Now you can at least use the web client. And of course, they've bumped up all the VMs to nearly silly numbers of 5,000 VMs. They've also reduced the storage time it takes to do all the bits and pieces by quite a bit. If you know SRM, it plugs into your storage, and the storage can either do the replication, or another VMware product called VMware Replication can do the replication between your primary and your DR sites, and they basically sped up the speed of all of that, which obviously is a good thing. The other nice, interesting thing is the IP subnet mapping. With SRM, if you're obviously taking a VM from a primary site to a secondary site, it's likely going to have to change IP. You need to do that on a one-to-one basis. Now with a new 5.8 version, you can define a subnet on one side and a subnet on the other side, and it'll just be able to transition those IPs a whole subnet at a time, which just makes it a little bit easier. So that's talking about vSphere replication. Now, ta-da, you can see what part of VMware's plan is if you can start replicating things into the cloud. So right-click New Replica, and you can replicate to a cloud provider, which at the moment is vCloud Air, but in the future you would presume that it would be partners who are running part of the vCloud Air network, which is service providers who are running a public cloud offering. And yeah, some more pretty graphs for the reporting. So the Data Protection Advanced, which is powered by EMC Avamar, so that's a product that VMware is sort of OEM'd, but it is the same company, so I don't know what you call that. But they've taken some of the bits and pieces from EMC Avamar and they've put it in this product called their Data Protection. The exciting bit is Exchange DAGs and SQL availability groups, and so you can do your protection choosing the primary or the secondary one, whichever you want to do. And a replicate and restore anywhere is a nice thing where you can replicate to your DR site, and then you can actually do a restore from your DR site into your primary site. So it just gives it a bit more flexibility of your restoring. They've dumped the vSphere Essentials and Essentials Plus kits for retail and branch offices. Certainly a marketing person who came up with that term. And they've got this new Robo editions. It's a standard and advanced. You can see the base pricing. I'm sure you can wangle a discount if you want. And the advanced one has a few things. The difference with this is that it's per VM pricing. You're not buying it on sockets and cores and processors as you would do with the rest of VMware stuff. And you can buy it in a pack of 25 virtual machines, but you can only have one pack per site. So obviously you can't bundle all these up for your big data center with thousands of VMs. It's your small little branch offices running on whatever small kit you have, up to 25 VMs. So 5.5 Update 2 is the latest and greatest VMware update for their flagship virtualization technology. Yeah, some new stuff. Was anyone here last night at the vQuiz? Yeah, we got some people. What is one of the questions about the amount of memory you can now run with 5.5 Update 2? There you go, 6 terabytes. I don't know about you, but I don't know how much 6 terabytes worth of RAM will cost you in a server these days, but I'm sure that will come down. The most exciting thing, though, is VM Hardware 10. I know you all love the web client. It's the fastest, slickest, most amazing thing you want to do. But actually, to be honest, when you want to do something quickly, you need to jump into that fat client just to get things done. You couldn't do that with updating to 5.5 because the hardware version wasn't supported. Now, obviously, VMware have realized their customer feedback machine and their listening ear has been on, and you can now edit some hardware. There are a few things you can't do, but adding memory, adding a CPU, adding a SCSI controller, those kind of things you can now do with a fat client. Saying that, the next version of vSphere is apparently going to be the very last version of vSphere, they say, that will support the C# client. Going forward, it will be the web client only. So they are sort of by pulling and dragging us by whatever means they can to get into the web client, but they've obviously realized that there are performance issues, as anybody who's worked with it knows, with the current web client, so they're giving you a little bit of a last leg to stand on with the C# client. Some more database things, and there's actually, interestingly, a replication calculator, which is a web-based thing you can now use, so you can estimate how long things are going to take to recover, and the number of VMs, and also the network bandwidth you would need. Sounds like a good little thing to add in. So Power CLI 5.8. Anybody who knows Alan Renouf, he's a long-time London VMUG and certainly UK VMUG attendee. He's now one of the product managers for the automation suite, and he's here today. So if there's something you don't like about Power CLI, he is the guy who's going to decide if it's going to go in the next version. So go and tap on his shoulder and mention it if you like. They've come out with 5.8 R2. One of the nicest things, actually, is the startup speed. Because Power CLI obviously runs on PowerShell, which is whole .NET based, the first time you run it, it needs to do a whole lot of compilation of .NET, and that can be painful. So the first time you launch your PowerShell, you click on the play button if you're in the integrated development environment, and it just takes a while. So they wait, and off it goes. Now, normally you don't care because you're just running it on the first time, but there are many operations out there which are running batch jobs that may run a Power CLI thing every 30 seconds, every minute, for example, to do some monitoring or some auditing or some sort of automation thing. You can imagine the pain and wasted time of running that every 30 seconds, and it's got to compile .NET every 30 seconds, and off it goes. So as part of the actual installation, it pre-compiles .NET, so that means it's far snappier to get your Power CLI running. Storage policy commandments have been added as well. You'll see a lot more of VMware about storage-based policy management. There's the idea of picking your data stores yourself and managing all of that is moving out the way, and you're going to use policy to do all of that. Power CLI will tie into that. And then the last one over there is the cloud infrastructure virtual machine. I guess it's cloud infrastructure. I don't know what the naming was. But there we go. You can now deploy a VM directly into vCloud Director or to vCloud Air from Power CLI. Oh, there's my work thing. And SRM 5.8 as well, it has been stuck in Power CLI. So, VMware vCloud Air. Now, this is a rebranding from the VMware vCloud Hybrid Service, which is a terrible thing to say. And VMware vCloud Air is now their all-encompassing public cloud offering from VMware. There are actually two parts of it. There's a vCloud Air, which is what VMware runs themselves. So VMware trying to be Amazon and running your workloads on their public cloud is VMware Air, VMware vCloud Air, but the VMware vCloud Air network is other service providers who can also run basically vCloud Director, but they can run the VMware vCloud Air service themselves. You may ask, well, how would I go with VMware or with a service provider? And to be honest, I think customers are struggling with that question at the moment. The service providers will offer different kind of SLAs. They may tie into different data centers. They can put other value-add services on that VMware doesn't have themselves. But yeah, at the moment, it is a bit of a difficult thing to choose. Do you choose going with your public cloud with VMware directly, or do you go with a service provider? Something you need to look at. But the whole point is that they're going to have all these things as a service in the cloud world to do. Desktop platform, infrastructure, and management as a service, all running as a public cloud model by VMware and some of the things from their partners. Just some of the new things, it's coming to Germany, and Ubuntu and AirWatch. AirWatch is the mobile device management that product that VMware bought. And interesting, this vCloud connector, so you can have your own data center, you can create a layer 2 tunnel between your local vSphere environment and vCloud Air, and then you can just migrate virtual machines. Now, if it's layer 2, and what Joe was mentioning earlier, you could actually vMotion a VM from your on-premises data center into vCloud Air with no loss of connectivity. That sounds pretty cool to me. So here's the whole point of vCloud Air, is that VMware wants you to think of your on-premises VMware vSphere and vCloud suite in your data center, and VMware's vCloud Air running on a software-defined data center. I obviously don't think you can run a software-defined data center internally, but that's something else for the slide. But here's the whole idea. It's one support call. Your applications don't have to change. If you know that your application runs on vSphere in your data center, you know it's going to run on vCloud Air on VMware's data center. So their idea of selling this to you is one holistic brand, one holistic support model that VMs run anywhere in the world, your premises, their partners in the network, and on VMware vCloud Air itself with no change. And that's obviously an attractive thing for customers. On demand is basically Amazon-style pay by credit card that you don't have to sign up for a year or 2-year contract with vCloud Air. This is on a preview at the moment, so it's not live, so you can go and have a look. And yeah, just with a credit card, no purchase order, pay for what you use, and there's permanent billing. So that's a new offering from VMware vCloud Air on demand. Object storage is a new kind of thing. That's also in tech preview at the moment. It's using the EMC Viper technology, which is an object-based management of storage. Object-based storage, you're not tying storage to a particular VM. It's a blob of storage. If you know anything about Amazon S3, this is basically VMware's equivalent. Obviously, lots of API interaction, things you need to talk to it from different applications. You know, it's obviously big, up to petabytes and 20 terabytes in size, and the two offering standard and SSD. So also on VMware Horizon Air, so this is the public cloud offering, is Horizon DAS, which is Desktops as a Service. VMware bought a company called Desktone. This is slightly different from that, it's all branded within Horizon, so anything Horizon is end-user computing. But the interesting and cool thing about this is they're all talking about applications as a service. With the new Horizon stuff, you can do basically what Citrix XenApp does, but with VMware. So you can have VDI, and you can have XenApp, which is called RDS, and you can have installed applications all managed in vCloud Air via VMware. So 4 different ways of delivering applications that you can run on VMware vCloud Air, which definitely is an interesting thing, that you don't need to pick different cloud providers based on how they're going to deliver applications. VMware is trying to do it all for you. Obviously, moving to new data centers, the bigger desktops, up to 8 gig of RAM and 4 vCPU, and that's available for service providers as well as part of the network. VMware vCloud Automation Center 6.1 has also been announced. New and more things. Plenty of stuff with VCO, which is vCenter Orchestrator, so they've hooked those together a bit more. Puppet integration, I think there are 10 more localization languages, and there's also a new thing that you can bulk import VMs. So when you add a VM into vCloud Automation Center, it used to be one by one in creating my brain's gone dead. I can't picture what it was called, but now you can basically take in a text file, and your 100,000 VMs in your massive private cloud, you can suck into vCloud Automation Center far quicker. So NSX, we were talking briefly about the networking. This is NSX 6.1 for vSphere. You'll see later there is also an NSX 6.1 multi-hypervisor. This is the vSphere portion. It's only supported on 5.5 and newer, the 6.1 version. So things that have come out, external DHCP servers, so that's previously you could only have DHCP servers running within the NSX infrastructure, so now it will just pump out the DHCP requests via the equivalent of helper files to another DHCP server on your physical network. And then interestingly, this layer 2 VPN. So when we were talking about earlier about connecting your vCloud data center, your on-premises data center to vCloud using layer 2. This is another way you can do it using NSX. And so you can then move your workloads internally, externally with a layer 2 VPN between yourself and vCloud Air. Some more integration with F5, and then extra thing on the firewall. So the NSX microsegmentation, this is one thing that VMware is really trying to get their message across as one of the key benefits of NSX, and why I have a distributed firewall, which is one of the big things that they're punting with NSX. In a traditional data center, you have all your applications behind a single firewall. Once you breach or behind that firewall, anything's open, off you can go. VMware goes, ha. If we can sell you NSX, we've got a distributed firewall, which is basically a firewall that runs on every single host. A VM cannot send a packet out of a host without going through that firewall. First of all, that makes that hugely scalable. As soon as you add another host, you add another firewall, but it also means that basically every VM is behind its own private firewall. So that means you can have all this micro-segmentation that you can have, little VMs, all these tiny little pockets of VMs, which in a traditional data center, if you had them behind firewalls, would just drive you insane. First of all, with the amount of hardware you would need, and drive you insane with all the amount of policies you would need to maintain in a central place. It's a far better way of doing it. And obviously, they say it's far more secure because more firewalls means more security. So this is the multi-hypervisor one, which runs on KVM and Xen, and the DHCP relay, which happened in the 6.1, and some other things that have been added to that. So, quick pause to get my breath and maybe get your breath from your brain going. As I mentioned, there are just too many things announced at VMworld that I just have to flick through them so quickly to just try and go on time. So vRealize. Now, vRealize is the brand name for everything management product-wise to do at VMware. So vCloud Automation Center, you can see they've all been renamed to vRealize Automation, vCenter Ops, vRealize Operations, Configuration Manager, vRealize Configuration Manager. You may think vRealize, it is a bit of an odd name. Never mind, they've spelled it wrong with a Z. But maybe you'll start to see during the presentation, when you start reading about it, why vRealize, what their thinking is behind vRealize as a name. So vRealize actually means two things. The vRealize, so that's VCOps, vCloud Automation Center, and ITBM. Those were the old products. And the new name for your on-premises one is called vRealize, those three names. But the clever one is they're now offering a new software as a service offering in vCloud Air called, funny enough, vRealize Air Operations, Automation, and Business. This means there's nothing for you to install. It's basically VCAC, VCOps, on demand in vCloud Air. Has anybody installed VCAC before? Was that a pleasurable process? Did it, take 10 minutes? Was it really easy? Exactly. I mean, so VMware's realized that, and they go, well, what happens if we could offer that as a service to our customers? So you can run the operations and the automation in the cloud. It can hook into your data center. It can hook into vCloud Air's data center, the partner's data center, and external things like Amazon and whatever else. So you can imagine a lot of the hard work of, first of all, setting it up, and also all those predefined workflows and all those kind of things. If VMware can offer that as a service that you can buy, I think that'll be a nice, attractive thing. Management's not your core, and automation's not your core competency. So if you're going to be doing more stuff in the cloud, why not get VMware to look after it for you? So the point is to remember that there's a new name for the on-premises versions, and then these are what the new public cloud versions of those are going to be. So the vRealize suite, VMware likes to have a suite. It means they can sell you more products rather than just individual ones. But here's the point, that on the infrastructure, you've got the vCloud suite on-premises and the vCloud Air off-premises with the vRealize cloud management platform, which can manage both. So if you have a common single pane of glass, to use a cliche, that single pane of glass will allow you to have operational insight and automation of both on-premises and public cloud. That's the idea of the vRealize. And yeah, thanks to Chris Val, who's doing the keynote later. On-premises is the correct term. People use on-premise, and he went and made all the effort to change the slides. Nice and pedantic. Good work. So there are two versions as well, and it's per processor or OS licensing, and those are all the bits and pieces that are in there. You can see on-premises and Azure, OpenStack, and Amazon are also things you can manage with on-air one. So this is a vRealize Operation 6. This is what's new with that. So this is the on-premises version of what was VCOps. Management packs are a big thing. So these used to be developed only by VMware, and now I think there's an open framework that anybody can go and develop them. So that'll add far more visibility into far many things. There are a lot of storage ones. I know the slide's quite small, but EMC, NetApp, all of those kind of things, Brocade, Cisco, all of these kind of things. So anything that VCOps used to manage, they're now just a better way of doing management packs. Scale-out architecture means you used to have a single appliance. Now you can scale up those appliances and they all talk to each other. So obviously you're talking about anything at scale. The VCOps appliance used to be a pretty ugly beast. I think it was 16 gig of RAM it needed and 4 vCPUs, and you can imagine that just can't get bigger and bigger. So they've broken it up, and now you can have separate little appliances that'll all talk to each other. And the dashboard has been prettied up. And the nice thing that they've added is more of a connection from the operations to the automation. So the operations can say, hang on, your VM's undersized or oversized, and then tell the automation thing to go and fix it. So that's a good tie-in to get at least what you're seeing and what you're fixing together. So that's tying into the vRealize automation. Again, the on-premises version, 6.2. So that's the ops health in automation. So you can see, the slide's obviously small, but you can see this is actually the web page for vCloud Automation Center, but it's come up with those little pretty graphs that we know from VCOps. Cloud Client is a new thing that's just a unified command line interface, so you can talk basically to a single place to talk to lots of things. You can imagine with all the kind of plugins and everything with vAutomation Center, that can get a bit cumbersome. Cloud Client is a new thing that's going to be helping to sort that out. Log Insight is basically VMware's attempt at what Splunk does, so it grabs in all logs and does analytics on all the things coming from ESX hosts, coming from vCenters, coming from VMs, all in one place. Obviously, some pretty graphs to look at everything. They're looking at multi-tenancy, so that's the first part of doing that. Obviously, if you're a cloud environment, multi-tenancy is important. And yeah, just some load balancing and more integration with VCOps. So Operations Insight is a new little bundle, and that's basically if you've bought Operations Management, which is vSOM, so that comes with vCenter, ESX, and VCOps, the old VCOps, and they basically bundled Operations Management Advanced and put Log Insight in, and it's a new bundle called vRealize Operations Insight 6.0. This is a brand new product from VMware called CodeStream. Joe was talking about DevOps earlier. So this product is going to be VMware's attempt for the continuous delivery. So you can imagine in a DevOps world, when Joe was talking about the circles, making the shorters ever shorter and shorter and shorter, this is VMware's product he's really talking about. So it's all about accelerating how you can build VMs and having a DevOps mindset and a DevOps way of deploying your things and doing it quicker. It's all new, so we don't know what that's actually going to look like, but it's obviously all about rapid and reliable push out of frequent software updates. So have a look for vRealize CodeStream if you're into the DevOps world. So vRealize Air Automation, so we were talking about the on-premise one. This is the cloud version of the automation, and as you can see, Amazon and vCloud Air, they love to stress that it's not a replacement, but an alternative option. So I don't know. I would think in the future that it wouldn't be a replacement, but certainly if you're going to use a SaaS-based offerings that at some time in the future can plug into your on-premises version, I would think the writing's on the wall for where you would be thinking about where you do your management. And it's under private beta, so you obviously can't sign up just to use it as a paying customer yet, but you go for the beta if that's something of interest. Now, vRealize Air Compliance, this is something also a SaaS-based model, so running in their cloud. Anyone done any work with a hardening glide? You know all those millions of little VMX settings and tiny little things you've got to put. There's no really good, easy way to then go and report on that. Well, the compliance is exactly to do that. That'll look at the hardening guide or HIPAA or your company custom policies. You can create a custom policy for your company based on all the security settings you want and run it in vCloud compliance, and it'll tell you exactly which VMs and hosts and everything are breaking that policy and compliance. I think that's definitely an interesting and useful thing. So, EvoRail. Now, just to mention, I can only give a brief EvoRail over here, but long-time VMUGger Mike Laverick in the next session is doing a far bigger deep dive into EvoRail. It's basically a new hardware appliance. VMware stresses the hardware appliance bit has got nothing to do with VMware. VMware is not in the hardware business. When Joe was talking earlier about the software-defined data center, if you needed particular hardware, you would be lying. So VMware cannot be in the hardware business, otherwise that's billions of marketing budget flushed down the drain. So the point of this is that you've got these names who are selling a hardware appliance, and what VMware has built is they've built this software that runs on these hardware appliances. Now this is all new hardware. It's basically a 2U rackable module with 4 servers inside. Very particular hardware requirements, 2 CPUs, 192 gig of RAM, and 16 terabytes of disks. Whoever you buy it from, that hardware is going to be the same. A very funky, new, cool, modern-looking installation procedure, as Joe mentioned, in under 15 minutes, and that's not in ideal conditions, that's it. It's been completely rewritten in this wizard-based environment. Looks very, very friendly. This is Marvin. The previous name of EvoRail was Project Marvin. Project Mystic was what EMC called it, and Starburst, I think, was what other people did. I think what they did is they gave each of the individual vendors individual separate names to do it, and then when the names started appearing on the internet, they could go, the leak came from EMC or the leak came from Supermicro. I think that's what happened. But anyway, that's the personalization of EvoRail is this little guy called Marvin. So yeah, literally 15 minutes. You can see all the interface is different. It doesn't use Flash. It's all HTML5. It's a very simple thing that You don't need to install vCenter, you don't need to install ESXi. It doesn't come all installed, but you just power it on, and I think you've configured a few IP addresses or an IP address range, and off it goes. It just deploys all of the stuff that you've wasted many, many hours of your time matching up databases with vCenter and all the crap with SSO and all that kind of thing. This is all handled for you. It's a very simple deployment. Obviously, what it has underneath is Enterprise Plus. It uses vSAN for its data store, vCenter Server and Log Insight. Those are the things that are all bundled in. And it comes actually with the vCloud Air disaster recovery bundled in as well. There was something else I was going to mention. I can't think of it. Have a look at if you want to have a look, I did 3 blog posts on the whole EvoRail thing, and certainly if you're interested in EvoRail, go and see Mike's session later. To be honest, in the future, everybody will be deploying virtualization infrastructure on a hyper-converged or a converged thing. The faffing of dealing with firmware versions on blade chassis and little NIC driver, QDEPs, and all those kind of things just is boring. So in the future, EvoRail is one of those things. I can assume that other vendors from Microsoft or whatever will jump on the bandwagon and do the same thing. Interestingly, HP, if you look at the hardware, HP has come out with an EvoRail appliance, but they've come out with exactly the same hardware appliance, but using the HP left-hand VSA instead of vSAN. So you have a choice. So that's interesting how the providers are going to differentiate on either having, okay, that's not an EvoRail thing, but with HP, but HP may have some other software. I know that EMC are going to be bundling into their recover point on top of EvoRail, so that's something else. So who knows, Supermicro, Dell, these other companies. I know one of them, I think it was Fujitsu maybe, is going to put in a GPU card. So if you wanted to have 3D desktops on EvoRail, you would want to buy it from Fujitsu because they can have the value add. But the basic hardware is going to be the same for everybody. Yeah, my point was, this kind of thing, be it EvoRail or something else, or certainly Nutanix or SimpliVity, or if you're playing with the big boys, EvoRack, and when that comes out, and vBlock, those are the things we're going to be deploying infrastructure with in a few years' time, because all hassling with cabling and all hassling with setting up VLANs and all that kind of thing, we haven't got time for that. OpenStack. Obviously, OpenStack being the cloud version of Linux, VMware has to jump on the bandwagon to get involved with this, otherwise they can see their great revenue-generating code base slipping through reach. Now, OpenStack is not a hypervisor. That's one of the misconceptions it is. It's basically an on-premises private cloud management. VMware want you to think, which is a good way to spin it, that OpenStack is a great API. Developers love OpenStack as an API because their applications talk to OpenStack to deploy more virtual machines to manage their application. But VMware says the best place to run those VMs are on vSphere because you could get to take advantage of a lot of the vSphere stuff. So what basically the VMware and OpenStack is drivers that talk through the OpenStack components to VMware. So you can see Nova is the compute management portion, and that will obviously talk to ESX and vCenter. Neutron is networking, that will talk to NSX, and Cinder and Glance are the 2 different ways that you can store images, and that will obviously talk to vSphere data stores or vSAN directly. So all these parts are OpenStack bits that you may have heard of or worked with if you've worked with OpenStack. These are all the VMware bits, and VMware is basically providing these drivers so you can connect and meld the 2 together. It's delivered as an appliance with an OpenStack code plus some tools on and managed through the client, through the vSphere client. One of the things that one of the things that the OpenStack portion is all about is that OpenStack doesn't do things like HA, doesn't do things like DRS, storage DRS, all these kind of things that you take for granted and you think, oh, that's crazy, that must be really old. The point of OpenStack is you're writing cloud-native applications that at the application level, you've got high availability. That doesn't work for everything. So the idea of melding OpenStack with vSphere is you can use HA, you can use DRS, storage DRS, all those kind of things on the vSphere layer, yet have your very developer API-friendly OpenStack stuff further up the stack. But you then have a choice. So your cloud-native applications are going to look after themselves instead of availability. But other apps that require availability from infrastructure, they can use vSphere, obviously purchasing Enterprise Plus or Enterprise or whatever you need from ESX. VMware can't do anything of VMworld without talking about containers, otherwise you seem to be in the dark. Joe was alluding to earlier what the plan is, and it's all about and, not or. So they don't see it as you either run VMs or you either run Docker containers, you run the two together. Interestingly, Google have come out with a wording. They say VMs are for your untrusted workloads. That's not actually, just looking at it now, that's not actually the best way to explain it. Basically, they're saying that a VM is a far better security container. Container, I've used the wrong word. A VM is a far better security construct than a container would be. There's very little security between containers running within an OS. So fantastic if you don't need that security. You can spin up many thousands of containers and they can all talk to each other. But if you need any further security between containers, off you go and you run your containers in separate VMs, which will give you that separate thing. One of the nice things with containers in NSX is obviously each container needs an IP address. You can then secure firewall traffic between containers using ESX running obviously as VMs. So that's also another hook in between the two. VMware Warden's another thing, which is Cloud Foundry and Docker talking together. Cloud Foundry, for those of you who don't know, is a platform as a service. VMware used to own it and then spun it off into a company called Pivotal run by EMC. But literally, Cloud Foundry, if VMware is the infrastructure as a service layer, Cloud Foundry probably is, if not the premier platform as a service, offering a very important part to the VMware future. End-user computing. So this is obviously not just VDI, but a whole bunch of things that VMware is talking about in the cloud mobile space. This also includes the mobile portion of that, some of the things we're going to cover quickly. So you can see the whole end-user computing division at VMware has had quite a bit of a shake-up over the past few years. They've got a new CTO, Kit Colbert. They've got a new boss, Sanjay Poonam. And they've been buying companies left, right, and center and literally shot the moon out, going from shot for the moon. The old VDI days we all used to talk about, and the battle between Citrix and about VMware just with View versus Desktop and all those kind of things. Nowadays, to be honest, that kind of discussion is kind of very different. Citrix is doing a whole bunch of very nice things. VMware is doing a whole bunch of very nice things. And it's not just a competition on the VDI space. It's very much mobile and all the other ancillary things that connect together. So you've got these three divisions, the desktop, which is VDI, the mobile, which is an AirWatch, which they bought, and content collaboration is basically Dropbox for the enterprise, and SocialCast is a Facebook for the enterprise kind of thing VMware also has, and the portal is Identity. But it's these sort of three tiers running on those services. So VMware love a suite. They can sell you more bits and pieces of a product. So of course you have to have a VMware workspace suite. And that bundles together Horizon 6, which is the View portion, AirWatch, which is the mobile stuff, and the secure content locker. Now, I don't know if you remember, but VMware had a product called Octopus, which they then renamed to Horizon Data. And everyone went mad, said, this is the future of enterprise file collaboration. We all absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It does whatever you want it to do. They bought AirWatch, realized that AirWatch's stuff was much better. They sort of sidelined Horizon Data x Octopus, but they have, to be fair, taken some of the code and ported it back into AirWatch. So if you wondered what happened to Horizon Data, that's sort of disappeared somewhere, and AirWatch Secure Content Locker is what VMware are using to manage that Dropbox for the enterprise. This is actually pretty cool. I saw a demo of it at VMworld. This is NVIDIA. So you have a hardware NVIDIA GPU inside your host, and you can present that up to 8 VMs. And the games that they were showing on the demo, playing, I think even remotely through a VDI session, playing a game or doing some CAD kind of stuff was fantastic. So, one of the big blockers of VDI was anything that you needed to do some high-end graphics. Here you go. Here's a great way to solve that. It's not released at the moment, but you can sign up and have a look at the NVIDIA Grid vGPU is what it's called. This has then been extended to basically VMware stuff, the NVIDIA vGPU, but also running on Google Chromebooks. So this is quite a punt VMware is also doing in the education space that Funny enough, Joe was mentioning his daughter having a Chromebook at school. Well, Google's obviously very much trying to get Chromebooks out there, and so this is a way that you can have VDI running on a Chromebook with good graphics. So, Horizon Flex. Another word, containerized. You needed to stick containerized in the end-user computing space at VMware, otherwise you won't justify your bonus. And this is basically containerized policy-based desktops. Now, what that means in non-marketing rubbish is it's offline VDI running on VMware Fusion Pro or VMware Workstation. It's basically a secure VM that you can either via the network or USB stick on your laptop, and you can run this VM in a bubble that has all the enterprise security policies, which isn't screwing around with your local operating system. If you remember VMware Ace, anyone remember that? That was the similar kind of thing. VMware liked to say that Ace was ahead of its time. Ace was difficult to manage, so what Horizon Flex is doing is using that Ace technology, parts of it, but having it far better managed. So here you can see the idea of it is if you've got desktops, central VDI desktops, or desktops running in the cloud with Horizon Air, but if you want local desktops, Horizon Flex is the kind of thing you're going to be using. There are three different parts of it. You've got the policy server, which manages the policy, so that's things like USB devices, copy, paste, drag, and drop, all those kind of things. So you can set a VM will only last for a month, and then it'll turn off. The client is literally your workstation clients, Fusion, Player, or Workstation. And then this is actually an optional component, but this is a way to manage the delivery of those offline VDI desktops into your Flex environment, and you can use VMware Mirage, which is a physical PC management product that VMware bought. Now, Cloud Volumes, this is cool. Cloud Volumes is basically a company that VMware bought literally a couple of days before VMworld. It's a company that's only been around for about 3 years, and it's basically all about layering. So if you look at your traditional VM, you've got your hardware abstraction layer, your operating system, and your applications. What Cloud Volumes does is it uses a layering technique that you basically install all your applications in a layer on a disk that you store somewhere. What you then do is you can add that VMDK onto one virtual machine or 1,000 virtual machines as quick as it takes to add a VMDK to a machine. How long does that take? Milliseconds, very quick. And those apps then instantaneously appear as if they're installed and have been installed on that virtual machine. So the desktop shortcuts appear, the registry settings appear. It's as if that application has been there all the time. There's no copying of data. Obviously, this is very quick. You can have multiple layers. So you could have your Office, all these app containers, user changes, and all that kind of suite. If you need to then roll out a new version of a product, you just update that one VMDK, attach it to 1,000 virtual machines, and off you go. And the VM is truly fooled into thinking the apps are installed. Now, interestingly, it's a desktop and server, Windows and Linux thing. So you can imagine even running, you could have a VMDK which runs SQL, and you want to add SQL onto 20 VMs, off you go. Add the app volumes. Sorry, I forgot to mention it's actually now renamed. So you can add this app volume onto all those VMs, and it's very, very, very quick. So there are other companies that play in the space as well, so it'll be interesting to see. Unidesk is something. It'll be interesting to see how these two play out. So now, Project Fargo and VM Fork is also another very cool technology. This is taking a running VM and basically making a clone in memory and in CPU, and obviously the read bits on disk, and having that VM instantly appear as another workload. So you can see you have a parent VM, which then gets quiesced in, which then gets split into multiple child VMs. Now the advantage is it takes under a second to create this. You need to have a quick procedure for doing disk and memory, and then off you go. And this is quick. You can create thousands of VMs in milliseconds. Project Meteor is then mixing them all together for a thing called just-in-time desktops, which sorts that out very quickly. So you can provision thousands of desktops. You have a small base OS, and off you go. Okay, desktops as a service on Horizon. I'm going to have to flick through because we're way out of time. The stuff is a workstation portal, which is where everything goes together. It's your portal for looking at all your apps. The CTO stand had some fantastic posters of things that VMware are looking at years into the future. There are all the links over there. That's Ben Fati, the CTO himself. So look at all these kind of things, and you can go to the links from the presentation and see all the cool things that VMware is working on. vSphere 6 is a new version. VMware's completely horrendously botched the whole announcement of this. They're actually not, they've said they're not allowed to mention the name vSphere 6, but you can see that's Pat Gelsinger on stage mentioning it as well. There are a whole lot of cool things. I really encourage you to, Duncan Epping is doing a session in this room next on a lot of he can't call it vSphere 6 because he works for VMware, and it's not officially allowed to be announced, but I can. Quite a lot of cool stuff. It's on beta, so you can literally go and do it now. It's all under NDA, so you're not allowed to talk about it, but VMware did a horrible job at VMworld. They said it's under NDA, no one can talk about it, and then they had 10 sessions talking about future versions of vSphere. So there's plenty of information out there. I've got a whole raft of blog posts which are bordering in gray areas of NDA stuff, but things like fault tolerance, vMotion across everything. There's a virtual data center and policy-based management content library, new stuff to vCenter. Oh, thank you, Jane. There's the tweet deck. And then enhanced link mode and a platform services control. I haven't got time to go through over this today. We're short. But Duncan is doing a session next. And interesting virtual volumes, vSAN, a whole bunch of new certification kind of things, very much focused on networking. And there were cool parties. Hey, there's Pat Gelsinger. Got to chat to him. Look at Cormac O'Hagan with his nice hair. Alan Renouf, these are all people at VMworld. VMworld is a fantastic thing you can go to, whether it's Europe or whether US. I seriously advise you to take the chance. Here are the dates for next year. It's well worth taking your time out to go and look. I've had to rush through it so quickly, it's crazy. But please, the slides are on my blog already and will be on the VMUG site soon. So there's no way you could have read it all. Go and pick the links and go and do some more research. Thank you very much.